this is what we're doing. We're focused on the changing role of the business analyst, how organizations can benefit from their strategic understanding and leadership. So if you're interested in that, you're in the right place. Okay, so who and why am I speaking about this? Let's have a quick look. This is me, Pullan. I do some work for 2080 Strategy Execution as an associate senior instructor. But like all the other instructors, we're not employed as full-time trainers. We're actually people who are out there working in change, working with companies, working with projects and programs. So I'm an independent consultant as well. I've written and contributed to quite a few books, so there they are on the screen as well. I authored one on facilitating risk management, one on business analysis and leadership, which was co-edited with Jay Archer and with lots of thought leaders from business analysis around the world. And there'll be some parts of that I'll be pulling out, especially around leadership. Gower Handbook of People and Project Management. I know we've got quite a few project managers in the group, so that's great. It's good to have you here, and really vital to the success of execute strategy along with business analysts. And the latest one, which came out last year, was virtual leadership. Because one of the other difficulties in actually getting things to happen when you've got teams spread around the world. Yeah, so that's me. So we've got about 400 people, so there will be a lot of things coming in from you as well. One thing to mention is that I find it's really helpful, certainly in workshops with clients when I run training workshops too, and also on webinars, to use visuals and drawings. So you'll notice that I think those are only bullet points in the entire set. This is one of the templates that I use a lot. And I'm going to do something you might not have seen before. Can you see down on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, I'm actually moving to use a pen. This is within PowerPoint, and it's something actually very useful if you need to work virtually. You can draw on PowerPoint, and I'll be doing that from now on. So let's use this visual template. Business analysts love using visual communications because they work so well. To run through the things we need to know for this session and to make sure it's all set up for success. So we're here. What are we here to do? To explore the changing role of the BA to organizations achieve strategy. So it's around the changing role of the BA, the business analyst. What are we going to do? We've got some objectives. We're sort of going to the introduction now. We're going to spend a little bit of time doing some polling and asking you about your context, what you're grappling with at the moment. And also very open to your questions and your thoughts as you go through. Please do put them into the chat box so everybody can see them as well. We're going to look at how the world is changing, and boy is it changing fast, and some of the challenges that come from that for us as people working in change and delivering strategy. We're going to then look at the BA, the business analyst, leader. How can they help you lead as an organization your execution of strategy? And then, how do you do this? So those are the 5 activities for this session. So we started just after 12. We're now at 6 minutes past. We'll carry on through, depending on the number of questions that come through as we go, and comments. Very, very welcome, by the way. We will stop for sort of formal Q&A. It says here 12:45. It may be anything up to 5 to. Let's see how it goes. But we will definitely finish by 1, because I know that your lunch break, I suspect, and you'll need to get back. Who's doing what? I'm here facilitating, I suppose, presenting, yes. I also do want to facilitate your options, your context, your opinions as they come in. I'm very lucky. I'm absolutely delighted to have Sona present on the line. So you'll see Sona as an option if you want to send things to the host. If you have technical issues, please send them to Sona, because there's nothing I can do. I'm merely a speaker for this. And you're not just people who are listening and watching, but very much please do participate. This is what will make this a really valuable use of all of our time. Okay. I see lots of comments coming from people about the sound now working. So at the moment you are muted, so if you come in with anything, do come in via the chat box or question box. Do comment and ask questions as we go. If you have technical queries, so is the person to direct them to, rather than sending them to all participants or to me, because really I won't be able to help you. What's going to happen next is always a good thing. I think one or two of you in your comments back from the email that you asked what you get out of it, one or two of you were thinking about facilitating requirements workshops. Whatever type of workshop you're facilitating, this is a really useful or tool. Think about these different contexts. And one thing that people often don't think about at the beginning of sessions is what's going to happen afterwards. So what's going to happen? Well, the nice people at Strategy Execution will be sending out a link to the recording. She'll be coming out, and also I think not just the recording, but also some useful articles as well to help you thinking about this subject and so on. Okay. Yeah, some interesting comments coming in, so I look forward to addressing a little bit later. So let's move on. What I'm going to do now is this is where I call on Sona, the technical person. This is such having technical support. I'm going to ask a little bit about the people in the group. So, it's about you. What's your role or function? We've had some job titles, I think, when people signed up. What we're interested in now is the area that people are working in. So, Sona, if you could put up the poll. Okay, so you'll see you have about 40 seconds. You have less than that now. What's your role? Where would you say you come from? Are you more of an HR, organisational development? Are you maybe business analysis? Are you project program management, PMO, leadership? Above these or other? Please just press when you're done. I will be getting some answers as soon as everybody's had a chance to do that. Okay, the results. We have 42% business analysts. We have 16% project and program managers. Gave no answer. Perhaps try next time. 1%. I know quite a wide range of job titles. Leadership, so leading those areas, 3%, and then we have 2% HR and PMO. Okay, thank you very much. That's useful. So we predominantly have business analysts, but certainly not the majority. Super. So let's move on to the next question, the next poll, which is all about why are you here? So, Sona, if you could bring up, if you could bring that up. So, why are you attending today? Is it for yourself, for your own development? Is it because you manage business analysts and you're thinking about developing them, perhaps? Are you attending because you're exploring what business analysts can do for you? Interested, or other? Perhaps you could add that in the chat. That would be useful. More than one of the headings. Maybe choose your main one in this one. Hopefully we have the results coming up. Okay, so I've got a real mix here. We have 36% attending their own development. We have 10% who are saying, I'm attending because I'm exploring what business analysts can do. And then we're tied with people who are just interested and people attending because they manage business analysts. And other, we've got some people who do more than one of those. And they've popped in the chat. Okay, super. So that's really, really interesting to know as well. Okay, move on away from the pub. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And remember to put your comments in the chat as we go. And this is the one that we really need your comments in the chat, because and we've had so many different things coming in as responses from people. There have been no things that really stood out that we could have put in options. So it seemed far best to put in your challenges. If you could type them straight into the chat. If you do those for all panelists, then everyone will be able to see it. Okay, so we're beginning to see some comments come in. Yep, Al is coming in as a comment, and I'm sure there are many others. So do type the key things, and then I'll be able to tweak a little as we go. Hey, we've got people on both. I was going to say, if you put it in the chat to all participants, then everyone can see. Really, I think I can see everything wherever you send it to. So, yep. So there are people talking about workshops. A lot of questions coming in with Agile and where on earth do BAs fit in. I can tell you that BAs are absolutely key to Agile. This certainly is. Okay, all sorts of comments coming in to improve requirements gathering process. A lot around Agile, how business analysis fit in with data. Yep, okay. All my other commenting Agile. People think of BA activities as checkbox success criteria. Would BA sit in Agile? Yeah, difficulty with offshore development teams. Coming in, collaboration with business architecture. Yep, absolutely. I don't see it as a battle. I see it as very much all part of the wider business analysis field. Yes, it fit with product management. Yep. Yeah, business analysts can contribute to the solution. How do managers understand that? Yeah, BA program manager versus BA project manager. It's others, they really do need us as BAs. Yeah, loads of fantastic comments coming in. Thank you so much for participating. Yep, okay, lots of others as well. Yep, okay. Yep. Somebody's asked, will I explore organisational ambidexterity? I don't have that in my slide at the moment. Okay, right, let's move on. So my first thing is that executing strategy, putting a strategy from a dream into a reality on the ground is tough, is it? We'll talk why in the next few slides, and I'm to be combining information from the recently published IIBA research and impact study into BA trends and evolving role. It's just, it was finished a couple of months ago. You can find it at iiba.org in their Learning Development Webinars archives. They asked over 3,000 practitioners and over 100 business leaders. I'm also basing my comments on my own experience working with many different companies, and also all the questions that are pouring in for my Business Analysis Summit. So I've got about 1,500 participants in that at the moment. And of course, now, all the things that have been coming in from you as well. So let's look at what's happening here. So, you know, there's an awful lot that is changing now. So let me go back to using the pen, and I'm going to change the colour to blue. Do this when you're running virtual sessions as well. So volatile. I'm sure VUCA is something you've seen, comes from the US military, but really describes the world. I saw a lot of people using this a few years ago, but it seems to be getting more and more volatile, really. Just think about the geopolitics with massive changes, with President Trump. We exit. It's a rather stylized globe, but perhaps significant. I didn't put the UK in there. Perhaps I should have. I've just added it. Talk about complexity here. There's masses. Its complexity just seems to be shooting up as time goes on. Looking back, I can remember in the mid-90s working on process change on one site that was then supported by SAP. A few years after that, it was working on one country with 3 sites. A few years after that, it was working on process change, globalizing process change across 200 countries and using SAP to support that. So the level of complexity just seems to be increasing and increasing. Certainly uncertainty is very hard, with your strategy. You don't have a nice sort of 10-year window that you can apply a strategy. Everything is uncertain with this volatility and so on, so you need to be more flexible, and all of that feeds in what's needed. The other thing that's changed a lot and which came up in your session, your discussion inputs, is we're working so much more virtually. So, you could have a team working on change with people in all these different locations that I'm starring, and probably some more around the other side with completely different time zones that maybe don't overlap any office hours at all with you, and maybe have very different cultures. So yeah, it is tricky. Let's have a look at some of the other things about the world. Technology. So people have mentioned data in the discussions coming through, and data. I mean, the volumes of data are just getting bigger and bigger, but at the same time, you can get really useful insights from data if you can. There's some really interesting stuff happening with artificial intelligence as well, which I worked on 20 years ago when it wasn't doing anything quite this exciting. Just seeing how you can take masses of data and turn it into real insights commercially, but also medically. So last week there was a report that scientists in the UK have trained artificial intelligence to be able to look at masses of data about heart scans and then predict whether people will be alive after a year. Interestingly, the computers were more accurate than very experienced doctors. The doctors had a 60%, in 60% of cases, and the artificial intelligence computer was accurate in 80% of cases. So I think that's fascinating. And just think about applying that to the vast quantity of data that we have around our customers and the way and the interactions that happen within our organizations. Okay. Applications, loads of stuff is happening up with cloud and mobile and so on. Yeah, somebody's put a comment in saying facial recognition last week that predicts congenital disposition to brain defects. So all sorts of things happening medically, but can you see when that comes into commercial organizations, how those who can use data and draw a story from data and real insight are going to be incredibly ahead. So cloud applications, mobile, we're changing the way we use things. Absolutely. Tiny consultancy now has a cloud application. We use it for accounts, and it has, saved days every quarter. Clients can get in and see everything Yep. So lots of stuff happening as well. Lots of possibilities of technology. Of course, the technology that allows us to work virtually, thinking about things like collaboration, apps, and so on. Lots of ways that you can work together by technology. And of course, there's a lot of opportunity in this, but there's also a lot of complexity. It doesn't fit really on technology, but so many of you have said about agile approaches to delivery. That's one way of getting around the fact that everything's changing so fast. But again, that brings in its own complexity. A lot of people who are business analysts are really worried about the fact that business analysis, for example, isn't written down. A business analyst in many agile approaches, not all, isn't written down as a core role. However, take heart, business analysis is absolutely core to making agile work, needing to understand what's needed, understand the strategic needs as well as the more detailed ones. Yeah, absolutely. Someone's asking me detail about agile. I'm going to go in and say, somebody's asked the question, how does the BA relate to the product owner? Now, the product owner is meant to be somebody from the business, somebody who really knows things. Now, BAs are brilliant. They're flexible. They can do all sorts of things. They should be supporting the product owner. The product owner from the business shouldn't be doing all the businesses themselves. They probably haven't got the training. They may not have the skills. They can certainly work closely with the business analysts to make sure that things are done best for that job project. So let's move on. Let's look at all of this stuff. What are all the things that make strategy execution quite so tricky? So switching back to the pen, so I've put some of these on here. Okay, getting into a discussion on Agile, I'm going to have to probably stop that for the moment. I will add approaches here. Why so tricky? Looking at some of the things. So we're in a fast-moving, complex world. We need strategy to be executed. That's the key thing. We need it to align with corporate strategy. The things that are delivered on the ground need to align with corporate strategy. And what are the things that make this so hard? Well, outsourcing certainly made things pretty complex. Cost-cutting, but it also made things harder. I think virtual teams really came along with outsourcing as well. The credit crunch and the need to reduce project failure really gave a focus on this too. And all of these are things that have helped with people realizing that business analysis was needed so much. The complexity of what people are tackling. In the financial services, certainly more and more regulation, and in some others, the speed change just taking off. At the same time, we're seeing the need for innovation. We're seeing the need for emerging business models. I mean, who would have thought that Airbnb would be so big from nothing a few years ago? They don't own any hotels, but yet they are really enormous. Big data, cloud, and so on. And the which approach take, I've seen large organizations that wouldn't have touched agile approaches with a barge pole 5 years ago, diving into agile very, very quickly. A lot of people asking a lot of questions in detail about agile. So unfortunately, this isn't a real agile session, so I will be moving on, but coming back to it as appropriate. Okay. What are your things that you think makes the execution so tricky, but have also raised the BA? What are the things you would add to this? What's on here that you think, yeah, for me that's been a big one? Drop it in chat. Let's see what comes up. Chain leadership, clear objectives for change, the psychology of their organization, the culture itself, uncertainty, constant changes in requirements, and often you only find out after go live, trying to do too much at once. Not having a senior business analyst voice in the strategy forum. A lot of us are saying one of the reasons why Agile is so powerful. Lack of understanding by the business and the role of the BA. Okay, that's what we're trying to help with in this session as well, and perhaps inspire some of you who are BAs saying that the business doesn't understand to actually do that. Leaders who don't lead, development direction of the company, drive for speed without knowing what's really needed. Lots of things coming through. Okay. So thank you very much for those. Or as well, the action landscape with different priorities. Right, I'm going to move on. People also make strategic execution really quite tricky. There's some different aspects we could look at. Another thing that we haven't talked about so far is that the people who are customers of our organization are more connected than ever with us and connected with our competitors. They have much more access to information about competitors. And this is the thing that in the AOBA study, 88% of leaders were concerned about this one, about customers having more choice and easily being able to move away. Let's look a bit closer then to leaders in organizations. What I find when I work with different organizations is that the leaders are so busy. There's very, very little time to think. And what you need when you've got this incredibly complex situations is you need time to think and analyze. So in the IABA study, 86% of leaders said they didn't have enough time to think strategically. It's interesting how people used to think that they could have their own organizations. Often people are done without having a business analyst, business analysis function in place. It's interesting, the last course I ran in the Middle East, there were actually more medical doctors on the course than there were business analysts, because they realized that this thing called business analysis was actually really useful. They're from public health, so you can imagine if you're going to be running major campaigns about obesity or perhaps TB or whatever it might be, you need to know that. So, however, let's look at the businesses and say, if you're a business leader, some of you will already know this, business leaders, you have an untapped resource in your organization who are used to handling complexity. They are used to thinking and analyzing. They are not fazed by masses of data. They are probably good at facilitating even virtual teams. They are very used to dealing with regulation and even work in an agile context. I bet people are. For most of the businesses who have called up, you people in your business. Yes, they're busy, but know about complexity. They are used to analyzing complex things. They know about problems. They know about going into and really understanding and grappling with problems. They know about working with others, working with and for others to find a solution. And do that in a way that will work with many different people, that will work with they'll work for stakeholders, they'll work for the project, they'll make sure that things fit for the organization as a whole and beyond. But someone came in this morning from Richard that in many cases, businesses don't realize that this capability exists, even if they have a business analysis function. Richard says, and I quote, the key pain point in the area for me is the business understanding of what business analysts do and the value that they can add to the organization. This can result in us predominantly being used for more tactical tactical work as opposed to working at a more strategic level. Any insights as to how BAs in organizations can transition? Probably the best way for me to do this is to tell you about a business analyst who is working at this strategic level. I was with an organization last week in the south of England in the financial services sector, and I'm going to call this lady Nicola. It's not her real name, but I'm sure we can live with that. She's been a business analyst for many years. She's had all sorts of titles: lead business analyst, principal business analyst, I think business architect at one point. Let's run through some of the things that she's done for and with the financial services company. So she has worked with very senior leaders to facilitate strategy, them to understand and to explore the problems that they face and different routes forward. So what else has she done? She's done, after working with the very senior leaders in a part of the organization, is working with the next level down. So working with managers. Facilitate strategy being passed down the organization. He's worked on target operating models, helping the business to explore strategic alternatives. Now, Nicola doesn't decide about strategy, but what he does is help those senior people to really understand what to make better decisions. And this is quite key for anyone here who is somebody saying there's a different, some people are guessing who the person is. Nobody's got it right yet. So, The other thing that Nicola's doing, which is really future-proofing this type of role and making sure that brilliant business analysts are available in the future, she has a team of lead BAs who work for her. He's developing them and developing the skills that they need to be able to work with others in the organization to actually do strategic stuff. Okay, so I'm delighted to see several people suggesting names of people who are here and who are working in this way. There are people like that. However, issues, because people with these sort of skills and confidence are few and far between. Huge opportunity for individual BAs, for projects and programs, and for organizations to tap into these skills and use them in this new way effectively. Okay, I'm just going to take a picture of this so we can share it when we sing this around for you. Okay, so how can business analysts then help with strategy execution? That we're going to dive into a bit more detail. We'll look at the view of the business analysis field. Now, this was drawn up by 2080 Strategy Execution as a part of their wholesale review that they've been going through for the last year or so, generating a whole new suite of courses and workshops that actually support this environment. So we're going beyond requirements. Okay, so any of the courses that they align with different parts of this. What would be really useful, and I'm going to call Sona in now and ask her to get ready. We're not starting, okay? Well, we've started the poll. So which of these quadrants are you or your BAs involved in your organization? So let me quickly run around. This one is the sort of traditional BA area, requirements management, requirements engineering. A few of you have mentioned how does BA differ from requirements engineering, analyzing requirements, listing information, and so on. That we're moving into with people like Nicola are these ones up here these other ones, which is where, you know, the role is becoming more and more about value. So both BA and PMI are focusing on value as opposed to requirements. Let's look at the, you know, understanding and defining business needs, recommending solutions, architecture, and looking at the design of the business to target operating models for the future. And then also benefits, making sure that we actually get useful things that we've asked for. Does it actually meet the needs once something's been built? And can we actually build in continuous improvements so we are not just having to do major changes, but we're continually tweaking and getting better and better? So it's interesting to see what quadrants you've come up with as saying you win most. So, Sona, could you pop up the answers? Okay, people didn't answer, but what's interesting of those who did answer, the majority are saying, so you've got 30% are in here. So 6% are saying their BAs are working here as well. You have 10% said BAs are doing some of this down here, and 11%, interestingly, saying that they're doing some of this benefits management. But traditional BA area certainly is more. And a few people didn't answer, but you can comment if you'd like to in the chat. But this is probably as I expected, that the majority, I was thinking the majority would be on the right-hand side, but we've certainly got traditional requirements, engineering, business analysis have been around requirements, but this is where a lot of the sort of strategic value add comes in with these other areas. Okay. So, yep, some things coming through. So now, somebody said, how did Nicola get the authority and support of the organisation's managers to take on this role? That's what we're going to look at next. How BAs. So all those of you who are BAs are fascinated, and those of you who have organisations that would like to have this sort of BA available to you to help out with strategy would be, I'm sure would like to know. So let's just have a quick look. We're going to segue now into leadership, thinking about leadership. The nature of leadership is changing, absolutely. This is what it was like 150 years ago. This is the Charge of the Light Brigade. If any of you know the famous poem, the chorus goes, "There's not a reason why, there's but to do or die. To the valley of death rode the 600. They had those 600 men on horses, just had to do what they were told, even if it meant they were going to die, as many of them did. That's not what leadership is now. Absolutely not. No way you can tell your stakeholders over whom you have no line management authority, just go and do this. Because I think we need a different sort of leadership. I took all words from the book Businesses and Leadership and popped into a doodle or word blog word thing, and it gave this rather fun map of words. So let's look at some of these. So obviously came up a lot. A lot of the leadership certainly is around facilitative. We tend not to have authority over people we're working with. We need to do it. We need to facilitate things. We need to draw people with us. It's all about change, maybe working with culture. Yes, definitely knowledge, lots of commitment, working deeply with problems, a lot about communication and so on. So let's move on to the leadership model that I came up with, the book, Business Analysis and Leadership. Here, what I argue is that it starts out, if you're going to be the sort of BA leader that Nicola is, you need to start out with yourself. Nobody's going to come and say to you, you need to be the super strategy BA leader. That won't happen, even though it might be nice. So decide, I want to really make a difference to my organization. I want to develop the skills, soft skills, knowledge, expertise, and experience that will help me to make the biggest difference. Also, you can be a leader on your project or program. This doesn't mean that you replace the project manager. Let's say the project manager is there. Alongside the project manager, you create a productive partnership which together will really deliver. Right. A webinar for ESIs, it was then in 2014, and wrote a PMI white paper on that. So perhaps we can send out links to that if you're interested. It also needs to think about how can they do best for the organization as a whole, and maybe even beyond in the wider world. And this framework is taken from the book Business Analysis and Leadership. So, a few steps to take then. Is identifying. How do you identify in your organization who's going to be the sort of BA who can really work well in sort of roles? So a few things. There's some people who work well, will be able to handle detail, but you also need people in this role who can communicate effectively at a high level as well. But being able to communicate at a high level, not all BAs are able to do that. You want to look for people who have been involved in and are good at scoping and shaping the early stages of projects. You can talk with senior people, easily, and are valued and they're listened to by senior people. Okay. You want people who can negotiate and influence. People who can work with large groups as well as senior people, and who can also facilitate virtually as well. Crucial. You want people who can take conflict and form it to consensus. Which are the team models and so on. Think of Tuckman, forming, storming, norming, performing. Often there's conflict, there are different perspectives that need to be listened to and sorted through before you can get to agreement. The BA should be comfortable working with conflict. Of course, they need knowledge. And training, clear around how to use that knowledge in practice. So really preparing them for use in a safe, Something negotiating what? Negotiating, not being insolent, but negotiating and influencing. Absolutely. Okay, so let me just take a picture so we can share that with you as well. Yeah, if you are going to draw on PowerPoint, it does get spikier and spikier as you go through the slide. So if you can't quite read influencing there, it's because PowerPoint, I think, has got more and more spiky as we go. Right. Now, the one thing you might find as a leader in an organization who wants to empower BAs that you've selected who fit those criteria before is that BAs don't tend to jump forward saying, me. What? Because BAs are working for the best, for the we. They're the we. They not to talk about me. They're about we and you. And the project, what's best for them. So typically push the limelight. Muna from Germany was one of the people who was asking questions up front. She says she wonders if management and support understand the role of the BA and know the benefits. Well, everybody else here, I'm doing my bit. But if you're a BA who's keen to develop into a leader, then stop waiting for somebody to empower you. The first step is to decide. If you're managing BAs, spot those with the potential to work at this level and encourage them, invite them, and empower them to aim for it. If you're outside business analysis, perhaps a leader in your organization, how can you identify and empower people inside your organization to provide this support? Think of it. Maybe as you might need to say a little bit more, to raise your hand and say, yes, I'm up for this. I want to work like this. I'm prepared to put in the work, do that, and to really give benefits to my organization. A few thoughts about developing people to get to that level. So the thing that really helps is confidence. It can be so what helps with confidence? Certainly this down here, one mentoring with for co-facilitating. If you're going to do something very high level and there's somebody who's up who couldn't do it themselves, maybe they could come and co-facilitate with you, or share work with others so they can shadow and get involved and see what's happening. Another thing that's really useful for support is having a community of practice, a BA community that can support each other, encourage each other to continue. So reading, the BAs who really do progress, do a lot of reading, not just books, but online, attending things like this. And of course, training is important, having a safe space to apply the knowledge, to apply the skills, supported by others who know the reality. Those are some ideas for you. How can you develop ways that show potential to take more? So, if you're just to be a leader, and steps, work yourself, work with others, build your negotiating and influencing skills, get a mentor, show you have the skills to meet the challenges your senior leaders face. Build skills and knowledge and apply it and make a difference. BAs work on developing their capabilities at a strategic level, their soft skills, their leadership skills, and work with your colleagues elsewhere in change delivery to ensure that the BA difference to strategic execution is known about so people can use it. If you're an organizational leader, realize that you have people in your organization who are skilled at coping with complexity, data, business models, transformation, and taking people with them. With your BA leaders to tap into these skills. And it doesn't matter what your approach is. Business analysis is key. So, question for you: what supports strategy execution in your organization? Just something to think about. If you write down, they need to actually action it. So what are you going to do? Well, I think we've got to the time for questions. So I think so far. So let's see what questions come in. Do send them through. Just while questions are coming through, I'll just put up the contact details should you wish to do a little bit more with individuals from 2080 strategy execution. But let's see some questions coming through. Just type them into the chat or the Q&A. Either is absolutely fine. What challenge in getting BAs to the strategic level? Well, one of the biggest ones is that a lot of BAs say, this is happening. What the organization should do something. It's why the leadership model starts with self. It could add value to your organization, and it's not happening, and you know it. don't assume that somebody else out there knows it too. So at the BA level upwards, let your manager know and think, how can we actually work on this? There's something small that you could work on, that you could support, just to let people know. Again, where I was last week with a financial services organization, their head of business analysis told me how once he'd been called in to facilitate something very high level, I think with a finance director, and that had completely opened up the organization to him and also made him known, and then realize what the BA could do. Okay, somebody's asked, is there any platforms or training recommended? We've mentioned quite a lot of things you can do, mentoring perhaps within your organization, having a community, having support. One-to-one mentoring can be very, very effective. I've seen people really take off with that level of support. And of course, there's a whole suite of training around different areas. So if we just go ahead one slide, back to this one that we had earlier, there are, for each of these different areas, there's a suite of courses. It sort of fits into this quadrant, this 2x2 matrix. So maybe perhaps we could get Strax to send out the courses that fit in different areas so you can see how it all fits together. Okay, somebody, do you see a BA as primarily a role based on projects or more on the side of continuous service? That's interesting. I'm seeing more and more people, particularly in the agile community, talking less and less about projects and so talking about continuous service. I think whether you have projects or continuous service, you have this need for understanding the problems, understanding what's really needed, understanding what the different perspectives are. So let's, yeah, okay. Ooh, we've got more and more coming in. So next one, thank you for the reminder to articulate leadership how you're bringing value. Absolutely. So a BA here has been constantly told that they're working outside their role and encouraged to do so. He now sees that she needs to influence herself as well as sort of expecting other people to see it. Absolutely. So BAs are not used to sort of projecting themselves. Yeah. When you have a lead business analyst as well as a business architect in the same project, what's in their responsibilities? Well, it's interesting because I would see business analysis as a whole, including business architecture, but then business architects might disagree. Really, the thing to do is to communicate. And if you're two people with similar skills, you need to communicate and just get really clear on who's doing what. It's like the project manager and the business analyst should be productive partners. You know, the business architect and the lead business analyst should be really productive partners, and they should go out the bits that suit their skills so that it's really clear who's doing what. How important do I think that subject matter expertise is prior to engagement? Okay, you need to know the area before you do a project. You don't. It really helps if you can communicate with people that they're used to. So at least learn the jargon, understand the area, but you don't need to have been in one area for 10 years to have to be able to do a good job on a project. I mean, I work in many different industries. Many of the people I mentor work in different industries, and often people coming in from new places can give really good insights. Okay. What mentor would you recommend? If there's someone working in that sort of role in your organization, what sort of mentor would you recommend? You can certainly look externally if they understand your organization. It might be somebody even outside of change delivery. There might be somebody who's maybe quite senior in finance or somewhere else in your organization would help you understand that strategic level and what people at that level are expecting, how best to communicate with them. So that's from Simone. Laura's agreeing that business architecture is part of business analysis. Yes, but business architecture is a hot topic. Well, business analysts are very good at adapting to the culture in organizations. So, to be quite honest, do the words matter quite so much? I think as long as the values being delivered, perhaps we just need to use the language of the organization. What's the future to be in terms of job promotion? Well, yeah, I would have said if I'd answered that question 25 years ago, it would have been the BA is then promoted to the project manager and then might become a program manager. But actually it's completely different now. I'm thinking that we have junior BAs, we have BAs, we have senior BAs, lead BAs, we have BA managers, head of business analysis, and that's one route. And is to use your business analysis skill expertise to move into things. For example, the right CIO needs a really good understanding of the business. Lots of people are having to go off to their next meetings, but we'll continue, I think, until the hour. We can squeeze in a few more things. So BA asked what's the future in terms of job promotion. Well, that's up to you. A lot of roles need an understanding of all this complexity and data and so on, but actually also need that business understanding and the ability to work with others and facilitate others. You know, it's a very good grounding for lots of different things. So I think I've got to the end of the list of questions that have come in. So do send in more if you'd like them. We have, I think, about 90 seconds left. H is querying, saying, isn't some of this management following through on a task? I suppose what I'm talking about is not just doing tasks. It's about getting others to follow your vision, to really help people to understand and get clarity. If the role you described does not currently exist, how would you suggest going about creating it? I think it's Chris who's asked that. You know, if you can find a small area that needs something doing and volunteer, perhaps finding a mentor from senior sides of the business could be useful, and just letting them know that you have facilitation skills, and perhaps there's something that you could do for your mentor. You're not magically going to appear. This is about the beginning to really get out there and let people know, not just telling it, not just selling it, but really engaging people. You know how to influence, negotiate, and work with stakeholders and projects. See if you can use some of those same skills to let people know about the sort of things that you're capable of as well. Grown role. It's not business. If you're a business analyst, you don't like easy peasy things. You like challenges. So good luck with that, and good luck everybody. I think we've now come to 1 o'clock, so I'm going to suggest that we super. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Lots of people saying they need to disappear, and all the best. Thank you.